From the Lincoln Journal-Star, this is the Life in the Red podcast with Luke Mullin and Amie Just.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Good to be here. Officially football game week, late August. I got here quick, certainly did. But a lot of excitement. I think that's the vibe here around Lincoln this week, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Without question. It felt like some of that just excitement in general for Husker athletics came early with soccer starting last week, or the week before. It's all running together for me. And then volleyball officially starting last night. We're recording on a Wednesday. And now more volleyball and then football. A home opener for the first time in forever, which is exciting.
Yep. Fall semester started at UNL too. So a lot of activity, a lot of buzz here around downtown Lincoln, that's for sure. Of course, with the football season starting, we will give you our season predictions today. So stick around for that. What we predict Nebraska football season record to be. We'll talk UTEP, everything, predictions that game, what to expect from how the Huskers lining up as well. And if you missed the last 2 weeks, we kind of broke down the different depth chart and we're pretty accurate. We'll get into that. But we're pretty accurate. But as we want to start off with here, we'll talk a little bit around Husker sports. You mentioned soccer. You mentioned volleyball. Both those going on right now. And the soccer update for you so far, a little bit of a tough start to the year. Losses to Oklahoma State and Duke. They did have a nice 3-2 win over Colorado State in there. And this is a Nebraska soccer team that had some pretty big preseason expectations going in.
Yeah, they had big expectations. I do think, though, that them being ranked number 6 in the preseason was a little more than they expected. And also, they're still kind of figuring some things out right now. They've got some people out for the season due to injuries. One that happened during the spring, one happened a little bit more recently. And then there's a bunch of other people going through injuries right now. And then, of course, as I wrote last week, Sadie Waite, one of their best players, is playing in the U20 World Cup right now. So she is not with the team either. So I think they're just hoping to get on by right now while they're down several bodies. And when they can get everybody back, I think things will go a little bit better.
Yeah, it's a long season. So still plenty to look forward to for the Nebraska soccer team. And by the way, 2 big in-state matchups coming up this week at Hibner Stadium. Huskers host Omaha on Thursday. Saw today they dropped a new black jersey.
It looks so good too, because it looks like their regular kit, but just in black, which I love it.
Yeah, going to be a good look. So that'll be Thursday night. Omaha comes to town for that one, and then Creighton will also be here in Lincoln on Sunday afternoon for another soccer matchup. But big expectations for soccer, even bigger expectations for volleyball. Once again, national title contender, and we will have much, much more volleyball talk for all of you fans out there here in the coming weeks. We'll sit down with our Brent Wagner and go over the season in depth. But as there was a match, and a pretty big one at that, Nebraska opening the year, 3-1 win, 3-1 over another top 10 foe, Kentucky. What'd you like about the Huskers in that season opener?
So one of the things that Nebraska could have done better last season was set the middle, and they came out guns blazing with that. Andy Jackson played really, really well. Rebecca Alec, excuse me.
Old habits. Yeah.
I know, old habits die hard. I'm good about typing it out, but when I'm saying it's a little bit different. But yeah, Rebecca Alec had a monster game, double-digit kills, double-digit blocks. She hit it like in the 600s. Really efficient game from her. Loved what she had to do, and the sky's the limit for her, I think, if she keeps playing like that. And then one of the bigger questions was, okay, who's going to start at outside? And that was Lindsay Krause at L1 and Harper Murray at L2. What was interesting, though, is they didn't play all 6 rotations. They had Olivia Mock come in and play back row, and then they had Lainey Choboy, of course, come in and play back row. So not a whole lot of I'm sorry, my brain just got like lost in like a million things that I want to talk about that match. But I think that they did a really good job of giving a lot of different people a lot of different opportunities because this team is so stacked. I wanted to see a little bit more of Taylor Landfair. She only played in one set, coming in for Lindsay Krause at points. But yeah, that's the only gripe I have about that rotation. Obviously, they're still figuring some things out there, but it really worked last night, and I can't wait to see what they have moving forward. Their home opener is this week as well. Got 2 matches, one Friday, one Saturday. Yeah, should be a good time. But yeah, they looked real good against number 9 Kentucky, who shouldn't have been taken lightly, and it was fun.
Yeah, lots of talented players. Just getting them on the court may be a challenge in these big matchups. So might be able to get a chance to see that entire Nebraska volleyball team this weekend, as you said, with that home opener. So, I mean, a lot of excitement, volleyball at home, football at home. And as we kind of talk about this upcoming matchup with UTEP, let's talk about the depth chart, what came out, the practice report from this week, what we've learned about what's going on with Nebraska right now. And so I think we did a pretty good job in our predictions. Not that, I mean, we've seen practice, so
yeah,
that does help.
It does help. Obviously, no one was right on running back because there is no right answer.
You pick one and you're wrong. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Or you pick one and you're right if you want to look at it as a glass half full. But yeah, no, I thought we did pretty good.
Yep. So I think the offensive line, very similar to the same starting 5 that we'd been seeing throughout fall camp. Just of note here, the backups, Henry Lutovsky still dealing with a calf injury, and Gunnar Gatula with a slight ankle injury. Could maybe play in an emergency if they needed to, but those guys, their status for this opener may be in doubt. And across this entire offense, I'm most interested in how these skill positions play out. Of course, we'll talk a little Dylan Raiola, but the wide receiver position needed upgrading in the offseason. Nebraska did that. Isaiah Nair, Jamal Banks. Don't think we need to talk about those guys too much. They're going to be good. Expect them to be good. But the slot wide receiver, very interesting. Janiron Bonner, he's listed as the starter there. As well, Isaiah Garcia Castaneda, the backup. Carter Nelson, 3rd string in the slot. I mean, I like Bonner. I like what he has to show. It's going to be interesting how they use him.
Yeah, it's going to be super interesting. And before we get too deep into the weeds on the wide receiver depth, personnel groupings change things, right? They're not always going to have 3 wide receivers out there. Sometimes they'll have 1, sometimes they'll have 5. And so just because somebody's a backup doesn't mean that they're not going to play. I got a lot of emails about that this week. And so I just wanted to clarify that different personnel groupings are going to require different people, and different situations are going to require different people. So just because Malachi Coleman, for example, is listed as a backup, that doesn't mean he's not going to play. That just means that he's the backup for that specific position. But if there's a situation that calls for it, he'll be out there. So just wanted to clarify some things before we get going more into wide receivers.
Yeah, I mean, we all know that preseason depth charts are be all end all, set in stone, never change.
But especially with those positions, because it's so situational, right? Or what if they go 5 wide? They've got to put the backups out there, right? Because they only technically list 3 wide receiver spots on the depth chart. So
yeah, and that's definitely a position where you go full speed for a few snaps and you're going, get me over the sideline over there. So there will be plenty of rotation there at that wide receiver spot. And the way that it shook out here on this first depth chart were Jalen Lloyd and Ja'Cory Barney. Those are 2 backups, Malachi Coleman and Alex Bullock, listed as 3rd string. But I mean, when we talked about this room, it's all those guys, they all have different traits and abilities that they can bring to the offense. And it's man, you're going to find a way to get them on the field in bits and pieces, surely.
Yeah, situational football will be to their strength for sure.
Undoubtedly. And as you mentioned too, at these skill positions, running backs, who knows how that'll play out? I think Gabe Ervin, we both like him a lot, from what he showed last year, his status as a powerful runner. But Emmett Johnson, Ramir Johnson, Dante Dowdle, he was in that mix as well. Just get the sense that it's going to be maybe a series by series rotation there at running back.
Yeah, and as Marcus Satterfield said on Tuesday, if somebody has the hot hand, we're going to ride it. Yeah. They're not going to shoot themselves in the foot in that regard. If somebody's feeling it and is making the defense miss, they're going to ride with him.
Yep. So,
and that might change from week to week.
I'd just be interested about how they're going to, maybe like try, some interior, try some outside runs. I feel like, I feel like there's going to be a little bit of like testing around early in this one, just see how it goes with those running backs.
I'm very interested to see what the scripted plays are going to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that first series. Yeah, that'll be interesting.
As long as they don't start at their own 1 yard line like last year.
Yeah, that's brutal.
The
script went out the window.
Yeah, no script available for that one.
Definitely. And so the offense, there were a lot of more, I think, intrigue about how the offense is going to shake up. Just again, offseason changes, new personnel coming in, and just to update you about how the defense is stacking up. No real surprises about those starters who were awarded their black shirts this week. Cam Lenhart also receiving a black shirt, key contributor to their defensive line. But the spot we're looking at, linebacker, Javen Wright being out, that has really hurt this room and their depth overall. So 2 backups behind John Bullock and Mekhi Bear, Vincent Shavers, Stephon Thompson. Neither's played a snap in Nebraska.
Well, yeah.
So it goes this time of year, huh?
That is the way that it goes. Just the same thing with, midfielders with Nebraska soccer. The depth is not there right now, so you just got to figure it out. And you never know. The team is really high on Vincent Shavers, though. Yeah. So just because he hasn't played a snap yet, I'm not going to discount him because of that. But there's always a first time for everything. Yeah. And for those guys, that could come this week.
Yeah, I'm just going to say I'm a little concerned about that position. That's why I bring it up. Just because, Nebraska did rotate pretty heavily at linebacker last year. They were playing 4 or 5 guys, consistently. And so Bullock and Bear, they'll be out on the field a lot, but I expect, they're going to need to get these guys in there for 8, 10, 12, whatever it is, snaps at least. And so, maybe it does go well, it is a smooth debut, but certainly, you expect a little bit of a learning curve for a player. And on defense, when you got to react, instantly that's tough. And then Stephon Thompson, I know these coaches, they really like his potential, but it seemed like throughout this fall camp, it was just like getting up to speed a little bit, getting those instant, knowing where you need to go, every call, every cue there on defense. So I'd expect maybe just a little bit of slowness there, just in total with some of these guys, getting on that field, that first major game action.
Well, one can hope that the Nebraska offense has a field day and they can give those guys a bunch of fourth quarter snaps so they can get ready for the future.
That's right. Get a look at the roster, certainly. And as well, the kicker position worth talking about. We've been talking about it all camp because Tristan Alvano has been limited. That's still the update that we have. John Hull and Tristan, they are listed as the options there to be the kicker, extra points and field goals. And then John Hull and Brian Buschini they're working as the kickoff specialist. We'll see how that shakes out. But, could be either John Hull, getting his first kicking experience, in front of 90,000 there at Memorial. So that's tough. Or Tristan Alvano, who's maybe been limited throughout fall camp, getting back into it right away. That's a tough spot for either of them.
Yeah, I wonder if they'd throw Tristan out there for extra points, and if it was a long field goal, they'd roll out with John.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they seem pretty confident with Alvano's trending the right way. They just don't want to push it too much. That seems to be the vibe.
But get him some extra point opportunities, and maybe if he's not quite ready for field goals, especially long ones yet, have John rip it.
Yep, where you really got to go all out on those ones. Yeah,
because it would help both of them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Just a theory.
As we're divvying up playing time over here, I like it. And then a couple other updates health-wise. Bly Hill, cornerback, dealing with a sore hamstring right now. Could be back to the field soon. Then the backup corners behind him at that position who could also fill in Sear Wright, Amari Sanders, Jeremiah Charles, and Larry Tarver Jr. Another kind of untested group, a lot of potential there. So we'll be interested to see that defense, that depth, if those players can get on the field in this matchup. But as we move into our Husker hot topic, there's a player that we haven't brought up yet, and it's a pretty big one.
Yeah, a little.
A certain Dylan Raiola making his first collegiate start, his starting debut for Nebraska. That is our Husker hot topic. What will his debut look like?
I think because it's at home against a team that isn't a conference opponent, that isn't a ranked team by any stretch of the imagination against a team that is new coach, their first game, piecing things together. I think it will go well for him. I think that he has a lot of options with pass catchers, whether that be the receivers or the tight ends or the running backs who have been known to catch passes. I think that having all of those options is going to help him a ton. But what will propel them to victory is Nebraska's mostly veteran offensive line. I think that's going to give him a pretty secure pocket. He's not going to have to dance a whole lot back there and try to force things. And I think it's going to do a lot for his confidence just to get his first one out of the way.
Yeah, I think from a talent standpoint, I mean, he has all the gifts that he needs to go out there and perform at a very high level for Nebraska. And what's going to matter, I think, is how Marcus Satterfield approaches this game, because a play caller can really help out a young quarterback. You think about establishing the run, a little bit of play action looks, some short passes to get him in rhythm with his wide receivers. That's what I would kind of look for, expect to see that kind of thing. And yeah, I agree with you. I just think from what we've heard about Raiola throughout camp, what he's done with his teammates, the way that he's approached this competition and becoming the starter on this team, he has the right mentality to do it. Certainly, it's a big moment. It's going to test him, but he has the talent to do it. He has the right mentality from what we've seen, and this whole offense, they believe in him. So
yeah, I don't think they're going to play it safe. I think they're going to let it rip.
Yeah, I mean, to me though, it's like you want to say that. I mean that is the mentality you need to have. But
I feel like they're going to let it rip. Like something insane, just like out of the gate.
Triple reverse, first play.
Okay, not that insane.
Onside kick? Who said that?
You did. You said that.
Well, I didn't call it, at least. So
I didn't say that either. Don't put words in my mouth. But I think they'll dial up something crafty.
Yeah.
To start.
They know the talent they have. They know how they can utilize it. So, and they've been spending several months getting ready for this one. So be excited to see how that debut does go. And before we get into our predictions, what to expect from UTEP, let's predict the season. I mean, let's start off with an easy one. Does Nebraska make a bowl game?
Yes.
Yep, we're both in agreement there. But let's talk about the record and the games that we expect to be difficult for Nebraska. And I'm sure a lot of folks will be interested. I mean, what do we think the win total will be?
So I'm a little more optimistic than you, I think, which is surprising because I was Debbie Downer last season and I got a lot of flack for it, but I was right. So
you might be right again.
Sue me. Yeah. I think they go 9-3 in the regular season. I think they ride undefeated all the way into the Ohio State game, where then they just get the doors blown off because I think Ohio State's a national championship contender and they're not going to take it easy on anybody. And then they drop one at USC, though, depending on what USC looks like, that could be a win too. And then for some inexplicable reason, they lose to Wisconsin.
Yep. Pretty similar. I'm going with 8-4 as my regular season projection. And I disagree with you that they will be undefeated going into Ohio State. I mean, man, the schedule does set up nicely. It really does. Feel that Nebraska should win most of those games, but I just look at a Purdue who's even not that good this year, or like that Rutgers game. I just think they're going to drop one of those early in the year.
Yeah,
just one of those trap games. You know,
I thought that could happen, and then like one of Rutgers' best defenders is out for the year. So that's not going to help them.
Yeah. I mean, there is certainly the potential. I mean, if Nebraska does start this year hot, they started on a run, they could come into those matchups with momentum. And certainly I agree with you. Ohio State and USC, those are two games that just the talent those opponents have makes it a little bit difficult in, where the games are being played too. That's a factor as well. And then late in the year, I do think that Wisconsin game, that could be tricky, but I'm going to predict the Iowa game as a loss instead. Man, Hawkeyes, they just got Nebraska's number. They got a great defense again this year. I mean, same old story, ton of question marks on offense over there, but that game late in the year, Iowa or Wisconsin, to me also, that one of those two to me ends up in a loss.
Yeah, I don't think super highly of Iowa at this present moment. Maybe that'll change with the new offensive coordinator. Maybe things will be better. But I have not seen what I have needed to see out of them. So
fair. Waiting for the proof. Yep.
mm-hmm.
But we're both in agreement that good things could be on the horizon for Nebraska this season. And of course, starts off this week to get that winning record rolling. UTEP coming to town again this Saturday, 2:30 p.m. that kickoff. And to what we know about UTEP, a lot of it is from Austin Peay, an FCS program where head coach Scotty Walden, who by the way, just 34 years old, pretty young FBS head coach, takes over the program. Brought almost his entire coaching staff with him. Brought a ton of transfers, and this is a UTEP team that is pretty much unrecognizable from the 2023 UTEP. So that has been a challenge for Nebraska scouting this UTEP team. But for what we do know, from what they showed at Austin Peay, this coaching staff, up-tempo offense, going to be aggressive, and Matt Rule says they're coming to win.
Well, yeah.
They should, right?
Of course. Yeah, they're winning just in general because of all the money that they're going to get for playing in this game. It's north of 1.5, I think. Haven't looked at the contract yet, but I will. But yeah, no. One of my biggest pet peeves is like, oh, they're not coming to win. Yes, they are. They play the game for a reason. Like, they want to win. Like, of course, they want to win. It's just, will they? I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, I think Rule's comments to me are significant of the mentality, the way that UTEP is going to play football. Just from what he was saying, like, they're going to do like trick plays. They're going to go for it on fourth downs. That's what you need to do if you're coming in here as, what are they? I think they're like 27 point underdogs. It's a lot. It's a very big, it's a very big spread that they need to make up there. So some things like that, you got to keep your opponents guessing. So that's going to be part of the equation for UTEP. But what's really going to be interesting is, yes, we know that this is going to be an up-tempo, aggressive offense, but it's like, who is going to be those players for UTEP? Because they haven't named a starting quarterback yet. Cade McConnell is a returning guy. He played in about half the season for him last year. And then Skylar Locklear, he's the transfer from Austin Peay, who played very sparingly, only a couple passes thrown, but been in the system for a couple of years under his coach. So he came in. Those two have battled all camp. Walden said maybe Wednesday, maybe Thursday, they'll announce a starter. Haven't seen it yet, so sorry, folks. Don't have that details for you. So, that'll be interesting. No quarterback named. And then running backs, Javon Jackson, he's another transfer from Austin Peay. A guy coming over from TCU, started his career at Florida State. Corey Wren, he's a talented running back. And then Trey Goodman, another transfer from Austin Peay, top wide receiver there. Expect to see him a lot. He is one guy that you could expect to see out there. But still some question marks about this offense because, by the way, they have an entirely new offensive line too. Top 6 returning linemen from last year gone for UTEP.
Yeah, I think that will bode well for Nebraska's pass rush. And then Nebraska's run defense is also really, really good.
Yes.
So I think that will help them. But yeah, as far as the playmakers go, I'm not sure what that's going to look like for UTEP, but I think Nebraska has a pretty good idea of what they think will happen. But as with a season opener, you never know with teams that have, 50 new players. You never know. And that's a challenge for Nebraska, not just this week, but next week too.
Yep. And they learned that lesson last year as well, preparing for Colorado.
They did.
And also talking about the UTEP defense, standout player there, edge rusher Maurice Westmoreland, had 7.5 sacks a year ago. Maybe some pro buzz after this season as well. So he's going to be a guy for that Nebraska offensive line to deal with. But as we get into our game predictions here, as I mentioned, Nebraska is a very significant favorite. This is completely different from last year where they were opening on the road at a conference foe. They're opening at home against a non-power conference team coming off a lot of roster turnover. Do we expect a big Nebraska win in this one?
I do, and I'm taking the over.
Bold. Yes, I agree with you. I'm going to go 35-14. I think that might be slightly under, actually, whatever the projection was. To me, this feels like the Nebraska defense should have a pretty good day. They should limit UTEP's production. As you mentioned, that D-line should wreak havoc both in pass rush and in run defense. I'm excited to see this new secondary with all these talented returners go out there for Nebraska. So, yeah, I mean, tough for me to see UTEP moving the ball a ton. And then, offensively, I'm maybe a little bit more muted about what to expect. I was thinking maybe in the 30s. So I'm going 35-14 here.
Yeah, nope. I'm going 45-12. I think there's a defensive touchdown in there.
That's good.
So that's what boosts it.
All right. Man, I should have thought of that.
That's why they pay me the big bucks.
How's the 12 happening then?
Field goals.
Okay. Thought we were going to throw a safety in there. Week 1 safety.
Man, that'd be fun. But no, I don't think that's going to happen.
Absolutely. So those are our predictions, and closing out here with the final word. Couple of things that we're here looking for in the season opener. For me, foremost amongst the turnover battle. Mm-hmm. Can Nebraska win the turnover battle?
Yeah.
They better, right?
You'd hope so. That's also a thing that I'm going to be paying attention to. Obviously, I'm going to be paying a lot of attention to Dylan Raiola. Everybody will be. Mm-hmm. But as a secondary storyline, who takes charge of Nebraska's run game?
Yes. The running back competition, as it is during the season, still competing for that for that playing time. And as well, how does this defensive line, these pass rushers, how do they end up going up against this UTEP team, and who really flashes out there? I mean, there were so many guys we can just mention here, like a James Williams, a Prince Willimon Mielen. I mean, there's going to be a lot of guys going up there at that line of scrimmage. Just really excited to see how Nebraska looks physically, how they attack things at the line of scrimmage.
I don't think it's going to be particularly close.
And that's the final word.
Yep.
Well, I always appreciate all of you listeners and viewers tuning in. Saturday, the opener, 2:30 at Memorial Stadium. Nebraska takes on UTEP, and we'll see you there.
Thank you for listening to this week's Life in the Red podcast. Our theme music is composed by Sasha Indy. The stories continue on journalstar.com.